All right, my guest on today's show is Tony Horton, is a true success story, going from nothing, no dollars in his bank account, to training celebrities like Tom Petty, Bruce Springsteen, and then making millions of dollars creating the best-selling DVD fitness series P90X. And then with all that success, like most all of us, right, he is not immune and was not immune to despair, contracted a disease that basically debilitated him. He lost 25 pounds, became emaciated and severely depressed. And we talked to him today about what that was like and how he used his physical and mental strength to fight back. Join me today on this awesome episode with celebrity trainer, Mr. Tony Horton. So I'm really excited today on episode 41. It's my great pleasure to introduce the world famous Tony Horton. Now, Tony Horton, for guys out there who don't know who he is the creator and best-selling fitness series P90X, 90X2, 90X3, 10-minute trainer, and most recently, this 22-minute military-inspired workout that would kick my butt, 22-minute hardcore, like Marine Corps, CORPS. Tony is, and aside from just a fitness guru, is a world-class motivational speaker. He's a top-selling author. I'll read you some books: Bring It, Crush It, and his latest motivational book, The Big Picture: 11 Laws That Will Change Your Life. He has appeared on countless TV programs as a fitness and lifestyle expert. He believes that real and lasting change, and this is things we're going to talk about today, can happen when we commit to health as a lifestyle. That includes exercise, foods, your diet, right? The right mindset. And that's what we're going to kind of get into towards the middle and the meat and the end of this interview. He believes it's the formula that leads to a real vibrant and productive full life. So it is my pleasure to welcome Mr. Tony Horton to the Better Mental Health Show. Welcome aboard, sir.
I am thrilled to be here, my friend. And we are guys with beards and hats and ready to change the world.
That's all you need. Beards and hats will change the world. So Tony, I got a lot of things in a little bit amount of time. So what I first want to do is I want to start with Tony Horton as a kid growing up. All right. So I read that you were a skinny guy growing up, I was a real scrawny kid. People would say that I was like a toothpick. I can hide behind a toothpick. That was a little bit of an impetus for me to start lifting weights.
I was bigger. I could hide behind a toothbrush.
Okay. So you're a little bit bigger. All right. So you had me a little bit. But tell me this, when did fitness become a part of your life? So when did you say, like, all right, I want to try lifting some weights? What happened there? What was the impetus?
Fitness came in phases. When I was young, we didn't exercise or train for any particular sport or reason. We just played sports, and either we were good or we were bad. I wasn't very good at most.
Me too.
I played tennis and I played golf, and I was a bad skier, and I was on the high school football team, but I was more of a tackling dummy, during the week than I was an actual player on the weekend. And I aspired to be better. I just didn't have good teachers, mentors, and coaches. It's just back then in the 60s and 70s, either you were a sort of a natural athlete or you had parents that really were kind of working with you at home. My dad was on the road. His job put him on the road a lot. So I was kind of raised by my mom.
Okay.
And so I didn't have a lot of, strong male energy in the house. And my father was a great athlete. His grandfather drove him into the ground to the point where, even though he was pretty good, he really hated the experience. It wasn't it was either, because it was all winners and losers back in those days. When you won, you were thrilled.
Right.
When you lost, you felt like it was the end of the world. And so, I just didn't gravitate to that. I think that's the reason why I like sports like golf and tennis and skiing, and now maybe rock climbing and mountain biking, because I'm not competing against anybody, maybe the elements, and I'm not.
Right, it's more of like a personal challenge type thing. You're doing it against yourself.
That's kind of where I live now. You know what I mean? So, but then then it was college. I took a weightlifting course for an easy A, I thought, and I ended up with an A. Thank God for that. But I had a great teacher. The guy that I wish I could remember his name, but he was just funny and thoughtful and patient. And he broke it down into simple, understandable steps. And I had never had that experience before. I had never had a teacher or a coach or a mentor that was just cool. It was a great hang. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I looked forward to going to the class, and after the course of that semester, I looked completely different. And it was during a winter month. So all of a sudden, the summer showed up and I was jacked, and people were like, whoa, because back in New England, you're wearing coats and long sleeves.
Yeah. You took it off and they were like, whoa.
Then all of a sudden, I'm going to the gym and working out. And then, summer came and boom, and people were like, what happened to you? I said, I took this great class. And And, you know, we're going to get into some of the changes of and I kept training to some degree, not to the extent that I was when I was taking the class, but I had that mindset. I had that education and that background, and my GPA went up. You know, like, why all of a sudden was I paying closer attention in class? Why was I even showing up to class all of a sudden? Because it changed my cognition, my memory, my attitude, my everything, you know. And so I didn't know the science behind it. I just knew that
you felt better,
I felt
right?
better, like, and I had more confidence, and a lot of things changed mentally and emotionally as well.
So, I mean, we'll talk about this more. There's this reciprocal nature, you know, when you feel better, you're more fit, you feel more confident. When you feel more confident, your mind is stronger, you're more clear. And that's not just happenstance. It's, you know, it's connected. We talk about this a lot on the show. Before we keep going on that, I like to ask, did you ever, as a kid, younger, did you experience any tough things as a kid? You know, we talk about bullying nowadays. Did you go through any of that as a kid? Were you picked on at all? I was picked on a lot, and like it affected me a little bit. I'm trying to go back to my days, but were you picked on as a kid?
Oh my goodness!
Yeah,
I mean, that was, you know, I mean, I moved 6 times before 5th grade. Right? My father was in the military, and so, you know, the constant moves made it really difficult. I think in one place we didn't even leave there an entire year, you know, and so you get, you know, the new kid is always the one that's going to get
the target,
and that happened to me, you know, 6 different times. So. That was just the nature of my childhood. And on top of that, I had some ADD, ADHD, LMNOP, NYPD Blue. I had all the acronyms, you know, growing up. I didn't have much of an attention span. And I also had a speech impediment called cluttering. And so you got small kid, insecure kid.
New kid on the block.
Speech impediment, small, not athletic. So I was an easy target. And, you know, I got the lunch money stolen. I got shoved in the locker. I got beat up at the bus stop. You know, it was just pick last for every team. That whole drill.
Talk to me through. Did you like internalize that? Did it piss you off? Did you get angry? Do you remember those feelings?
I was in a constant state of turmoil and fear.
Yeah.
That's really how my entire childhood. You know, I mean, it's surprising. My head didn't explode as a young kid, because I was always afraid of the coming moment. It's just
it was a constant state of anxiety, right? It was just an anxious state. Yeah, and the reason why I'm talking about that, Tony, is I like to, you know, someone like yourself who, you know, people see on TV, and you're a strong guy, and we're going to talk about some of the things you've gone through. You know, you're not, and you were not immune to tough times. And, you know, this is something that I like to talk. It doesn't matter who you are, you know, where you come from, or what you aspire to do, or what you achieve. Your life is going to be just as hard or harder than anybody else. That, you know, everyone experiences tough times. So I like to do that for kids that listen and think, man, I'm the only one going through this. I'm never going to get to anywhere because I was picked on. Well, we're talking to Tony Horton here, who's shoved in a locker. Okay, so this is not something that just happened.
The locker was like the most mellow thing that happened. You know, the getting beat up part was or humiliated. You know, in front of other kids. Those had more impact, I think, as a child. But
it's a terrible thing, and bullying now is on the rise. And the reason, and we know, is that because it doesn't end in school, right? Because once you leave, you're on your phone and it continues. Like I couldn't imagine that part. You know, when you left school, you felt like you were at least free from it for the night. Now people get bullied through the phone constantly. So like there was at least that.
Social media, you know, it can be great for a lot of things, but it's creating a lot of turmoil and depression and suicide for a lot of kids.
And that's a whole other thing. All right. So now, okay. So tell me that then you made a transition at some point to personal training, right? And so that I imagine that happened over some time. So to skip to, for the sake of time, how did you make that transition? So now I imagine you incorporate physical fitness and fitness into your life. You like the way you look, you like the way you feel. So tell me how that evolved into personal training, and then to a level where you're now training celebrities. So talk to me about that progression.
You know, there are these tipping points in your life. You know, the Japanese call it a satori, these sudden moments of enlightenment, you know, and they come out of the blue sometimes, but sometimes you have to be open to them. You know, one of them was a phone call I got from a friend of mine. Wow, military helicopter just went over my house.
Awesome. Might be a sign of some sort. I don't know what, but we'll hold on to it.
Land, that is low. Sorry, that's just it's crazy.
No, go ahead.
But yeah, you know, and so you know, I got a phone call from a friend of mine. I still had yet to complete I was in my senior year at college at the University of Rhode Island, and I was still 6 credits short. And he called me up and he said, "What are you doing for the summer?" And I thought, well, maybe I'll take some classes to try to catch up, or I was going to go up to Boston and wait tables. And he said, I'm going to California for the summer, and I might stay there the rest of my life. And then this is one of my best friends from high school. And I said, I'm coming. I'm just, without hesitation, I just said, I'm coming. I had $400 in my account. Like, that's just amazing. But I mean, I figured I'm going to go home and, live off my parents for a while. Or I'll go up to Boston and stay at a friend's house and wait on some tables, like I said. So, but I didn't do that. I packed a couple of bags and I threw it in the car, and we got into Gran Torino, and I ran out of money in Boulder, Colorado. And I was a trained pantomime. Yes, I was. And I used to do these pretty explicit NC-17 mime performances, street performances. And so when I ran out of money in Boulder, I just, put on the outfit, put on the white face, put the hat in the ground.
Good thing there's no social back then, Tony. There might have been a video around.
Yeah. There's no video of that. No, I have some photos though. I have some photos around. But yeah, I made $125 and made my way to Huntington Beach, California. And as soon as I got here, the lifestyle in California, and it's more universal now because of social media and more people, have access to more information. But back then, I was just, wow, there's surfing and there's skiing and there's bodybuilding stuff and there's aerobics classes, and spinning was still in its infancy. I don't think it was really going on yet. But, there were all kinds of, fitness was a huge part of Southern California and still is. And back on the East Coast, the only people that exercised were people that played sports.
Right.
Everybody else just, whatever. They smoked cigarettes and ate ice cream. I mean, it's different. And, I was at one point a member of 4 different gyms, doing different things based on, which gym I was a member of. I was a member of World Gym, and there's Arnold Schwarzenegger and Lou Ferrigno, and I would just sit there and spy on those guys and take notes and go, oh, wow, Lou's doing, 50 sets of chest. Okay.
Wow, so you would watch them, huh? They were there.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Like, you're trying to pretend you're doing your own thing.
Yeah, right. You get the side eye.
Those incline bicep curls, I've never seen that before, right? So you write that down and you integrate that in your workout. And so, but I wasn't a trainer. I was trying to be an actor, and I did some modeling back in those days. And I was waiting tables, and I was a carpenter, and I was a handyman, and I was a go-go dancer at Chippendales. I mean, I was doing anything I could to pay the bills. Occasionally when I was running out of money, I'd run down to the pier. I'd go to Westwood near UCLA, and I would do some mime so I could, make enough money to pay my bills and live on Cheerios and yogurt for 3 days. I mean, it was really hand to mouth, but I was here, and it was awesome. And it was, 72.5 and sunny every freaking day.
Yeah.
And the weather was insane, and people just seemed more friendly and upbeat. And I just got around a really good crowd, but the training happened when I started exercising. My boss noticed that I was changing, during the course of my employment over at 20th Century Fox as a production assistant. And my boss said, hey, I got 45 pounds of this. Can you help me? Because look what you've done to yourself. And I started training my boss in a buddy's garage. And, months later, after he lost the 45 pounds and looked really phenomenal, he went back to his old business of managing rock and rollers. And Tom Petty was walking down the hallway of East End Management on Sunset Boulevard, and Tom's from Gainesville, and he saw Harlan, and he said, hey, Harlan, you look fantastic. I'm fat, and I'm going on tour, and nobody likes a fat rocker.
Oh, my God.
So I go to Tom Petty's house, and, the story goes, I thought I was going to kill him that first day, but I had him for 4 months, and he got ripped and lean and strong and cardiovascularly strong, and he was on tour with, cutting off sleeves on his T-shirt and wearing vests without, and everybody noticed. And so the phone rang off the hook, and then all of a sudden I thought, well, I better get certified and figure out what the hell I'm doing. Because I don't want to kill any of these people. But my average for a while there was I had Billy Idol, Tom Petty, Annie Lennox, Stephen Stills, and Bruce Springsteen on a Monday.
What?
I was keeping rockers from the 70s alive.
So that was just like they talk to each other? Is that what it was? Like, did you get a name for like you're doing this and that, and then they just call? Is that what happens?
Well, Billy Idol and Tom Petty had the same management group, right? So when everybody saw Tom and how much stamina and how great he looked, Billy called me, right, mate, bloody hell, man.
Is he just like how he sounds, Tom?
He's just like that, man. He's fantastic. He's great. He's like, Horton. What we got?
I gotta get in there, man.
Muscle Confucians, man. Right, all right. And then he'd throw some F-bombs in there, but I won't do that. But yeah, so then it was Billy, and I got Billy ripped, and then, that's a small community, and the ones that were living in LA at that time all communicated, right? So, Stephen Stills people, Annie Lennox and Tom Petty were friends. So, Tom just said, give Tony a call, and she lived around the corner from Tom at that time. So, it was just one of those things. Everybody starts talking, and all of a sudden, I still had doctors and lawyers and professionals that I was training as well. I mean, but it was brutal. I was up at 4:45 in the morning. My first client was in the dark, training this gal, this producer, in her garage. And then when I left, it was still dark.
Right. So you were grinding. Well, I mean, you
I
had big.
Man, it was 4 or 5. It was 4 or 5 in the morning and 2 or 3 in the afternoon, driving all over this city, wearing out my car, and not for that much money, but it was. I was doing my thing at my time, my way. I wasn't the man anymore, and dictate the hours when I could take off and whatnot.
And
so.
I mean, you're building up a portfolio. Obviously, you have clientele that you can talk. All right. So now, so P90X. So I want to understand this for someone that has done them and has known of them. So you developed this on your own? Like, was this like in your notepad? Like you were just kind of how did it evolve? And then how did you then eventually pitch it? Like, where did that come from? Did you just utilize workouts that you were like using with these clients and then you turned it into this? Or was this a special thing that you kind of came up with?
Well, what I discovered early on in my career, that I think any trainer who's, worth their weight in what they're doing, is that you've got to give your clients a lot of variety, right? And what happens is everybody's become so specialized. You got your bodybuilders and you got your yoga instructors and Pilates folks and martial artist folks, and they think that their one and only form of exercise is going to be enough to create massive transformation. And, if your diet's spot on and you're training really hard 5 to 6 days a week, if you only do yoga or you only do martial arts, then chances are you're going to have some dramatic change. But I knew early on, training with, high profile celebrities, that, a lot of them, were all over the place, right? Yeah. I mean, they wanted to take this hour. What could I do on this particular day to keep them interested, right? So let's hang a heavy bag. Let's get you a stationary bike, a life cycle, first a climber, a heavy bag. Let's have you jump rope. We're going to do body weight hypertrophy. We're going to do, regular resistance stuff. We're going to do, it wasn't called HIIT training back then, but, periodization training, whatever it was, because, the reason why people don't do well long-term is because of 3 things: boredom, injuries, and plateaus, right? So people get bored, they stop, they go on to the next thing. They get injured because they're pushing too hard and they don't know where the line is, right? And so those folks have to stop because for whatever period of time, because they've injured their shoulder, their back, their knee, their ankle, whatever it is. And then the last one is plateauing. And plateauing typically comes from doing the same things over and over again, expecting a different result. Thank you, Einstein,
Yeah.
And so, and then there's that attention span thing, right? So when I had almost an entire year to sort of look at what P90X needed to be. And I would say prior to creating it, I had about 75 to 80% of the information I needed. Okay. But I wanted to be immersed in yoga. I wanted to be immersed in martial arts. I wanted to be immersed in Pilates. And these are areas that were not my area of expertise.
Okay.
Right? So I met with people and I studied with people and I talked to people and I said, where should this go? Where should it live? What should okay, how many, originally it was going to be a mastery program where there were 6 workouts and you're going to beat the crap out of these 6 workouts for 90 days. And I realized it just wasn't enough. I mean, cardio and resistance back and forth 3 or 4 days a week is not enough, and we need to add more. We need, we came up with a term called muscle confusion, which is just a made up term to describe variety, right?
Sure.
So,
yep.
We had guys who were used to doing hypertrophy and weightlifting and making them do cardio and making them do yoga and getting them outside of their comfort zone. And we got all the, the cardio junkies and the yoga folks doing, other things like pull-ups and push-ups they weren't used to. And so both men and women were getting ridiculous results that they had never gotten before because they were doing something new and different that they hadn't done before, right? Yeah. So that was it. It wasn't, it was just sort of, trial and error and common sense. And this is the way I still train today at 61.
And then was Beachbody an entity then already existing?
Well, yeah. I mean, the first thing I did with Beachbody was something called Great Body Guarantee. So I met this now CEO of Beachbody, Carl Deichler, and he was working for another company, but the other company was, doing different kinds of products, not fitness. And he was, he loved the whole fitness thing. He was a real fan of doing fitness infomercials and shows and that kind of thing. So, he liked me. We were friends. We would work out together and go on ski trips together. And, he liked my style and my humor and whatnot. So he said, hey, I got a few bucks. Let's see if we can make some money with this Great Body Guarantee. And, when you're doing an infomercial, 9 times out of 10, you're going to fail. It's just very few that do well. And this one hit. I mean, it worked. And then so what's the next thing? Let's do something called Power 90, which was a more involved. By the way, there's helicopters landing on my house. I don't know if you can hear them.
If I see a guy like a rope, if I see a guy in a rope come through that back window, I'm going to be real concerned.
They're coming.
They're coming to get me. Here they come.
the door, you know.
So you had a link to this guy, and that's
yeah. And then, you know, I mean, people know me from P90X, but there were two things that happened prior to that to before we got to P90X. Okay. And, you know, I mean, I was living in a little 2-bedroom apartment in Santa Monica with a view of a convent and lesson home in a kind of a semi-bad neighborhood, you know, for 21 years. And then we did Power 90, and I got to move out of that house just like that in the course of just, you know, maybe 6 months of royalty checks, which was a massive, you know, financial change for me, you know, and then only maybe, you know, mildly recognized here and there. And then we decided to turn it up even further and go with P90X. And as we know, you know, 5 million copies were sold, probably 11 total, including the pirated ones, because there were a lot of pirated copies.
Sure, there was.
The single most pirated disc in the world for a couple of years. Yeah, more than Gone with the Wind or Terminator 2, or, you know what I mean? It was.
I guess that's you should be proud of that. I guess that's good.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of amazing, but it's sort of too bad because, you know, people weren't making any money based on pirated copies.
Now it's a good point to transition down to the mental part, because one thing I learned, I was never into yoga. I didn't really understand yoga, what it was. And then I got into P90X and I saw this yoga thing. And I was one of those guys, and I'm sure you got this a lot, that was like, what the hell is this? Like, why do I need to do this? This is not what's in here. This is not what I signed up for. And so, you know, I think that what I know about yoga, you know, now, and what I know it does for you, aside from the physical, because it is a physical workout, it does challenge your body incredibly. People don't realize that. I want to ask you this first. You know, you were introduced to yoga, but what does it do for you mentally? I know the physically part, but tell us what it helps you achieve in your mind when you do yoga, or when you set out to do that.
Well, you know, yoga is different than everything else because it provides 4 things at once. It provides a flexibility component, a strength component, a balance component, and a mindfulness component. Yep. So yoga is a mindful practice that is very physical, unlike meditation that isn't physical at all, but it's very mindful because you're trying to be present. You're trying to be in the moment, right? So as a young actor, I learned early on that good actors are in the moment. They're very present. They're right here. They're not in the past. They're not in the future. They're all about right now. And so that's really important. And so that's the reason why yoga is so difficult for a lot of people, a lot of Americans, is because, you know, they're in the past or they're in the future.
Yeah, they're all over the place.
They're all about their expectations for what they're doing and how it's going to change them physically. It's all about their ego. So yoga takes your ego out, and it puts you in these very strenuous asanas or positions for extended periods of time. And a lot of it is isometric, and a lot of it involves, you know, flexibility that isn't there, or balance that isn't there. And the only thing that you can do about it is shut up and breathe. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so if, you know, there's like something called the Ujjayi breath that you use in like a hatha flow class. Ujjayi breath is right. And so you don't have to necessarily do the Ujjayi breath, but because yoga is so strenuous and so difficult, until you've done it, and everything becomes familiar, and you know the difference between, you know, Baddha Konasana and Shavasana, right? When you learn this stuff up, it becomes rote and thing. Then you've created a practice for yourself where it's still physical, but it becomes more about the mindful. An old yoga instructor said that when you're first doing yoga, not knowing what it is, not knowing the sequence, not knowing how strenuous it is, the monkey jumps from limb to limb, which means like your head is just on fire with, oh my God, what is this? And what is that? How long am I going to hold this? And the idea is to become familiar with it, so that starts to dissipate. Right. And so the sensation that you have at the beginning of an hour and a half hatha flow class, or kundalini class, or power class, or hot yoga class, or whatever the heck you're doing, is the antithesis of how you feel at the end. Because at the end, you've done so much deep breathing, especially if the room is warm, is that you've changed your own brain chemistry. Norepinephrine, dopamine, serotonin, brain-derived neurotropic factor. These things are
they're pumping out
inside your temporal lobe, inside your dentate gyrus, right? And, you know, all physical activity, if it's somewhat strenuous, does that for you. I don't know anybody who you know, you might be sore and tired and achy and that kind of thing, but mentally, 99.999% of the time, anybody that moves physically is going to feel different during and after whatever you've just done. And so, at 61, I work out this week I'm going to work out 6 days a week, which is more than I normally do. Like today I have a run scheduled. It's a 6-mile run. It's not crazy, which I usually take Fridays off. But it's beautiful. It's 72 degrees. There's a slight breeze. I got a buddy that wants to do it, so I'm going to go do it.
Why
Tomorrow
not, right?
It's my hour and a half hatha flow class, and then Sunday is a 4-hour gymnastics ninja thing. You know what I mean? But who I am as an individual, my level of confidence, right.
Yeah, I mean,
I am literally changing my genetics in my lifetime.
You are. People don't realize. The dogma has always been your brain is kind of static and doesn't change. But I think we pushed that back a lot. Your brain is more plastic than you think. You just got to be willing to stretch it out. And
physical fitness rewires your brain. We talked about wiring the brain early on. That's how you rewire your brain. I mean, you can read, right? You can read and you go to class and you can take seminars and whatnot. But you know what I mean? If you want the synapses and everything to work better and connect better, then you add the physical. All great psychologists, psychiatrists now have their clients moving minimum 3-4 times a week. It's a science.
It's a must.
It's a must.
It's a must. I mean, and people don't. You can meditate and you can be clear, but you gotta be moving, and because your neurons need to pump out, and they're not. They'll pump out when you meditate, but it's a different type of neurochemistry going on when you're trying to get in that flow. Along with that, do you utilize any other methods to stay focused and mindful? Do you meditate? Do you believe in? Do you have other sort of practices that you try to do? Meditation is hard for me. I mean, I'm sure it's hard for a lot of people, but yoga has come along. But meditation seems to be difficult. Do you practice that in any way? Breathing exercises, etc.
What most people don't realize is there's 50,000 ways you can meditate. You know what I mean? And we all think that meditation is sitting in lotus in a dark candle and holding your right.
No,
breathing for an hour and a half. Meditation can happen in 3 minutes. Meditation can be done standing up in line at the bank. Meditation can be done lying in bed. Meditation can be done before you take a nap. Meditation can be, inhalation through your nose and out through your mouth. Nose only, mouth only, eyes open, eyes closed. The thing is, most people don't have the repertoire for the knowledge about. Go get John Kabat-Zinn's book. Full Catastrophic Living, which is 680 pages. Jeez. And read that thing, and you'll understand why the importance of meditation. I got Ramsay-Hunt syndrome at the end of October in 2017, and now I still have something which I'll have for the rest of my life called bilateral vestibular hypofunction, which means my gyroscope inside of my head, speaking of mental, is never spot on. I'll have little glimpses of normal, and normal is very rare for me. It's not vertigo. It's not circles. It's more of a sort of a a mild little shake inside my head. And if you saw me, you wouldn't even notice. But there's it's a autoimmune disorder, and with that comes Epstein-Barr, which is awesome too. You know what I mean? So I had chicken pox as a kid, and so I got shingles, in my ear, which is like there's a fifth facial nerve in the face, and that just destroyed.
So it just reactivated right in there. Yeah,
reactivated right there. Well, I would have rather had it on the middle of my face or my neck or anywhere else, but I got it in a bad spot, and so I have to live with it for the rest of my life. And I got all my friends. Oh, what you need is acupuncture. What you need is this tincture. What you should do is go vegan, and none of that works. It's like I've cut an arm off and I'm going to be vegan and my arm's going to grow back. It's thanks for your help. But meditation is the only thing that keeps me back on track and keeps my head on straight and keeps me from getting really depressed about it. Right?
That's really, that was my next question I was going to bring up, that you battled the serious disease. And I don't want to get into the details of it, but I do want to ask you, it was probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest test for you physically and mentally that you had. And I want to understand, can you just tell us what that battle was like? And at the end of it now, what did it teach you? What are some of the lessons that it taught? People we talked about, Tony and I talked about before we started, but we joked that we're both alive, so that's all that matters. So when you have a loss or you go through something like that, what did it teach you about your life? What was that battle like?
Well, I thought I had everything wired. My life was pretty good. I was moving along pretty well, but I was dealing with some undiagnosed stress.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's not like you can go to the doctor and go, am I suffering from stress?
Right. Right.
Describe your life, and things happening in my life. And a couple things happened. The day Tom Petty died and the same day the Las Vegas shooting, they happened on the same day. And I was in the middle of contractual, headaches with Beachbody. And there was just a lot of, this low-lying stress with the contractual stuff. And then the Vegas shooting, and I knew people that were there and their horror stories, and it was just completely insane. And then Tom Petty died, a guy I've been training for 35 years, and I just blew up in front of a bunch of friends of mine that were here working out, that were all kind of dogging it, and I went off, man, and I could feel my head. I was in such a rage that I could feel my head, feel heat, in my head, and I go, oh, I think I overreacted there. But it was just the result of everything that was going on, and I let it out on everybody else. But days after that, I felt this incredible headache in the right side of my head, and then shortly thereafter, this rash appeared, and my balance went to crap. My range of motion in my neck went bad. I thought I had a stroke. I thought I was having a stroke. So I went to the ER, and they had to Google it because they didn't know what the hell was wrong with me.
Yeah.
Because it's 1 in 100,000 people who get shingles get this. Lucky me, right? So I won the lottery. And they said, yeah, well, and then I ended up with Bell's palsy, which was really awesome.
Like your face drooped, right?
Quasimodo on a bad day. And, as an adult, it was one of the worst experiences as an adult that I could ever have. Unlike a flu or unlike a broken bone, there's no time frame on when this stuff's getting better. A lot of people get that, and the Bell's palsy is for a lifetime. And the balance issues, it's like a form of what happens to guys who get blown up in Iraq, PTSD.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just one of these things that you have to kind of deal with because part of your brain is now broken. And the only thing that worked for me was rehab, doing tons and tons of balance work. And I still do it today. And the yoga is a huge help. And the slack line in the backyard is a big help. And standing on one foot anytime I can is a big help. But with that said, that was October of 2017, 2018. Here we are more than halfway through 2019. And I still have this thing.
Yeah.
And some days are terrible. I mean, they're just not so terrible that I can't function, that I can't go to work, that I can't drive. But sometimes it's so bad that I don't have enough energy to exercise. That's rare. But it's never on a scale of 1 to 10. When it was bad, it was 11 for weeks, and 11, where all I did was vomit. All I did was sleep, couldn't eat a thing, lost 25 pounds, and wasn't an extraordinarily.
I mean, you must have been dark, right? You got to a dark place. Yeah.
I mean, a level of depression that I had never experienced before.
Yeah.
Imagine you're on top of Mount Everest naked and you've got the flu, okay? But you're living. You don't die. You're still alive, and you don't know why you're still alive. You're just at that level of misery. What is it? What was it that got you those clothes, that got you the antivirals and down off that mountain? What was it? Like what did you tell yourself? Was it people in your life? Was it things? Was it anything? Or did you just say at some point, like, I just got to do this? Because I think when we talk about mental issues and mental health, people get real dark, but it's the people that don't see the light that lead to the problem. You saw it somewhere, or what was it? Can you recall something, or was there anything that just pulled you out? A lot of people who have what I have there's only mild improvements, and they suffer from depression and not leaving the house and not being active and not taking vacations because they don't have the foundation that I had prior to getting it, right? So the foundation was exercise and eating right. And, here's the crazy thing. You got PTSD or CTE or severe depression. Physical fitness and a decent diet has a massive impact. Does it cure you? Does it make everything disappear and make it perfect? No, but if you have that discipline and that willpower and that background and that foundation, then you can turn your life around. And so there was too much at stake, man. I got a big house and another house in Jackson Hole and a wife and 3 dogs and mortgages and bills and people who are knocking on my door going, when are you going to be ready for this next project? Right. So, that's all I need. You couldn't just pack it up and be all set. I couldn't just pack it up and sell everything and go live in a cave. You know what I mean? Yeah. There was just too much at stake. But I knew what it was like to start from nothing. I mean, I was a skinny little kid with a speech impediment, and I weighed about the same after this disorder as I did back in those days. I mean, 25 pounds off 175 pounds is the same thing I weighed in junior high school. I mean, I was emaciated. I mean, I can do 30 pull-ups in a row. I can do 75 push-ups in a row. But when I was finally starting to move again, 5 pull-ups was brutal. 15 push-ups was brutal. So you were like on reset, man. Yeah, I was on reset. But I took a piece of paper and I wrote down what I did. And I came back again and I wrote down what I did. And I came back again and I wrote down what I did. And those numbers kept improving. Yeah, and that's what you need to see. You saw that. You're in first grade. Oh, you graduated. You go to second grade. You're third grade, right? I mean, so I understood that it was going to be. And only now, I mean, it's a year and a half later, only now can I say I'm as strong as I was before I got sick. It's taken me that long. But I'm okay with that. I mean, I do my best to forget the rest. I show up. I don't, I keep my expectations down, and I train as hard as I can without getting hurt. I mean,
it's a lesson to all. I mean, like you said, a good foundation. People, you had a foundation. Maybe your foundation's different than others, but I think any foundation or any sort of support system in that world, and when you're that dark, is what's really going to help you out. I feel for those people that don't have that, and there's just really nowhere for them to turn, or they don't have what you have to say, I need to keep going there. I think, how do we talk to those people? That's the thing, and that's why. Putting the conversation around mental health and depression is where people are trying to live, by letting people know it's okay to have that conversation. My fear is that when people get so dark, they just don't feel like talking at all. But that's a whole nother thing. I'm looking at the time. I have one more question here, and then I want to do a quick round robin, and then we'll let you go. So a lot of people ask me this, for kids. They say, when do I get my kid to start working out? I hear a lot of conflicting things when it comes to fitness. They talk about just get them moving, right? We talk just get them moving, getting moving. Do you get that from people about their kids? Do they ask you that? Like, hey, is my kid too young? I know there's weightlifting might be a bit aggressive. What are your recommendations? Because like we say, fitness will drive good mental health habits. Mental health, it's a reciprocal thing. So it's easier for kids to get out there and move and do fitness than physical than it is for them to go practice meditation or mindfulness when they're young. So what do you say to people when they ask about young kids?
Well, I get that all the time. How do I get my mom? How do I get my dad? How do I get, my kids to start moving? And I say, well, what are you doing? I mean, if you're not moving 6 days a week and you're not setting an example, then there's no shot. If they don't see it at home, then likely, if they're not, maybe some kids are just generally athletic and they've got friends that are working out and they love sports and things like that, then those parents have an advantage over the kids that are just, you've got to set that example. That's number one, man. You have to be an active person, and it's got to look like you're having a lot of fun. It can't look like a struggle, because a lot of kids, who aren't athletically inclined, it's just a giant mountain that they just don't want to climb. So if you look at a lot of the people that have been successful with some of my programs, they were doing it for months and months and months before their kids were like, wow, this looks serious. They're really this is who my parents are now. And they would jump in, the kids would jump in periodically, and then it becomes a family affair. And that's the odds go way up if you're able to do that in the household.
It goes.
And then the other thing too is, don't be the drill sergeant. Don't be the coach that beats up on the kids. Let them fail. Let them complain. Let them just do it the way. Let them stop halfway through. Like let's say you're doing a routine with your kid or whatever, and it's supposed to be half an hour, and at 15 minutes they don't want to do anymore. And what do you say? Come on, man, you can do another. Let's do another 15 minutes. We're almost there. You can do it. Come on, don't be a wimp. Let's go. You go, hey man, I'm just thrilled you're here for the first 15. Rock on. I'll finish without you, man. I love you. You're awesome. I'm just glad you hung out with me.
Yeah.
And maybe next time we'll do 60 minutes. Whatever. Don't worry about it. You know what I mean? That's what I've done when I train with kids. It's like, make it goofy, make it fun, make it silly,
right.
and don't put the pressure on them.
Yeah, I feel like I see that a lot. My kids in baseball early, and they get aggressive early on. That's it. I mean, about the example thing, with phones, I get a lot about screen time and technology. The number one thing is, if you have parents that are in their phones and their devices all day long, you have no shot to teach your kid that they need balance and need to read a book or go outside and play. Right. No shot. Because their brain is looking at that, and that's how they're going to wire. They're going to think, okay, well, you're on it all the time. The answer people give is, well, I have work and you don't. They don't comprehend that context. All they see is, wow, you get to do it. I want to do the same thing. So example in any format, I guess, is a good indicator of where the kid will go. All right, so we're going to end it this way. Tony, I got some things. I'm going to do a round robin here. I'm going to give you two things you're going to choose, right? And we'll see how quickly you can answer them, and then we'll wrap it up. All right, here we go. This is Tony Horton round robin. I'll start with coffee or tea?
Tea.
Almonds or cashews?
Cashews.
Meat or fish?
Fish.
Shrimp or whitefish?
Whitefish, but probably neither.
Okay. That's the only two. I have like if fish, then these two things. What kind of fish do you like? Do you have a preference?
I eat salmon. I'll eat kind of wild fish. I'll have some trout or something.
Not farmed. You don't do farmed fish.
Fish is if they're farmed properly, but how the hell the guy that
you don't
go back to the kitchen, he's going to come back and tell you something that's not true. You know what I mean? I wild fish if I can.
All right, broccoli or asparagus?
Asparagus.
Kale or spinach?
Spinach.
All right, when you indulge, all right, pizza or French fries?
Pizza, man.
Yeah, same. All right, this is hard, but if you had to choose one, push-up or pull-up?
Pull-up.
Pull-up?
Not hard.
Really?
Love them. Can't get enough of them.
All right. I learned the hard way at P90X about pull-ups, man. When I started, I couldn't do one. All right, if you had to choose, what's your favorite ab exercise? Do you have one, a standard crunch or something? What do you have?
No, I like to do it through martial arts. You know,
So you get just core training, just moving at core.
Core training, like last night on the bag, on and off, 10 minutes on the bike, 10
keeping
minutes.
them tight, moving around.
Throwing a lot of hooks, throwing a lot, a lot of torque and twist in that way. Burning some calories and sweating.
So more dynamic abs than really static exercises.
Or if I had a choice, I would do a lot of, like low plank, that kind of stuff.
All right. Almond or soy milk?
Neither.
Neither? What do you drink? You don't drink dairy, I know that.
Coconut milk.
Coconut milk.
Yeah.
For a health reason, or you like the flavor?
It takes 14 gallons to grow an almond. It's incredible. It's the most wasteful nut to grow on the planet. It's really? Such a waste. So
is coconut milk? I never tried it. Is it a strong coconut flavor? I'm gonna try it.
Really, different brands. You got to play around with the brands, but
I'm gonna try it.
It's tasty. It's really good in shakes. It works.
Lentils or grain rice?
Oh, you're making it hard on me now. I'm gonna go lentils because of the protein and
same. They're more meaty. I like a lentil. Strawberry or blueberry? If you had to pick.
Blueberry.
Blueberry? You're a blueberry guy? All right. Mexican or Italian food? Don't do me wrong here.
Oh, Jason.
Come on, man.
Can I bring them together? Can they make love?
Can you have a Mexican Italian food? All right. So if it's
I grew up on Italian food. I'm half Italian household, a lot of Italian food. I love Italian food.
But you like Mexican
food. California, there's so much.
Yeah, you're in Cali, man. You're wearing a taco shirt right now. I can see that on your shirt. Look at that. Trejos tacos.
Yes.
There it is. All right. So
I'm going to have to go. It's a tie. I'm sorry.
All right. We'll leave it as a split. Cats or dogs?
Dogs all the way.
All right. Skiing or surfing?
Skiing, absolutely.
You're a skier? You ski out west?
5. I own a home in Jackson Hole.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
I skied around the world. I'm a skier.
There you go. Do you have a go-to song when you work out, or genre? Do you like rock, or what do you listen to?
I'm a rock guy. It's probably Zeppelin.
Zeppelin. And final one.
Love, my friend.
Here's the final one. Better abs, you or Shaun T? I had to do it. Sorry, I had to do it. Depends on when we're asking.
Shaun T. Better.
Yeah. Shaun T. There you go, Shaun. You got the shot.
They're younger abs than mine.
The younger abs. That's the answer. That's it. When, Chris? When are we talking about? All right, everybody. He's Tony Horton, fitness expert and advocate of total body wellness, body and mind strong. And let me give this here. To find more information about Tony and his products for a healthier life, go to TonyHortonLife.com. Tony, my man, I appreciate it. We didn't see any military men flying through your window, so it's a bonus.
No helicopters landed on my roof, so that's good.
Strong. Thanks again, man. Enjoy your time and be strong. I appreciate it, man.
You're welcome, Chris.
Ciao, man.